Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Olamide, and if you don't already know, application season has started, okay? It has started. This time last year, I was submitting applications for not this time last year, this time 2 years ago, summer 2018, I was submitting applications for summer 2019. So it is application season. For those of us who really want to get the ball rolling very early and make sure we get our offers super early, it's application season for us. If you want to access my application material, so all of my successful cover letters, a lot of people ask about this when I speak about the resource bank and they see the cover letters that are there. Every single one of those cover letters are successful. No rejections associated with any of those cover letters, and all of them had progressed to the next stage. And a lot of people ask, oh, did you get an offer with that cover letter? Cover letters and offers aren't related. I mean, maybe related in the sense that you need a good cover letter to get the ball rolling and get to the next stage, like maybe like the first round interview stage, but they're not reading your cover letter when they're deciding whether to give you an offer or not. We also just uploaded the interview questions. It's something that you also want to be preparing for as well. Like, oh, I don't even want to get into it right now, but that is one thing I spent my summer of 2018 doing, is making sure all my competency questions were ready, making sure my technicals were ready, so that as soon as I got the interviews, I was ready to go. I'm going to speak about this more in a video, maybe about balancing your time at university, because I've been getting a lot of questions about that. But preparing my applications early was super essential to balancing time at university, because if you don't know, when the ball gets started for university, that is when you typically start to hear back from these internship applications, and it can get crazy. Check out the resource bank if you want my application resources. This video is basically all about my application strategy and timeline. So if you know me, one thing I've been saying since I started this channel is applying early is so important. And it's so important because I'm pretty sure I was on the first round of waves for the 2 JP Morgan assessment centers that I did, and I really feel like this impacts your chances of getting an offer, because at the start of the application cycle they haven't given out any offers, so they're giving out offers a lot more leniently. So when you start moving towards the assessment centers that are happening further down the line, there are less spaces, but you have more people competing for them. So if you are, at the start of the application cycle and you have 12 people competing for 12 spots, you'll have a higher conversion than if you're towards the end of the assessment center cycles and you have 12 people competing for 1 spot. But I have to caveat that by saying, if you apply early and you're not ready, or if you apply early with the wrong strategy, it can be very, very, very detrimental. And this is what happened to me in the summer that I was going to uni. So basically leading up to my first year, I've always had a lot of friends who were in the years above me, and I took a gap year, so I did have a lot of friends who went to university before I did, and they told me about applying early. Applying early is the thing to do. So I really wanted to do that, especially in the summer going to uni. I had nothing else to do. You're not really working on anything. There's nothing you can really prepare for university. I didn't do any extra readings or anything. So I was like, okay, let me get the ball rolling on my applications. And I did, but my applications weren't of a good standard. They weren't of a good quality, because basically as uni started and I started going to these cover letter workshops and these CV workshops and these insight days from the banks, I was realizing that actually my CV isn't up to scratch. Actually, my cover letter isn't up to scratch, but I had spent August and early September submitted all of my applications, doing all the tests, but my applications weren't good. It wasn't good. And consequently, I didn't get any investment banking offers in my first year. I was very distraught. I was like, ooh, wow. By November, December, I realized that, I got a few interviews in my first year, but I had no offers, and then I started applying again. Long story short, in my first year, I completed about 4 programs, I guess. So I did the Fidelity Spring Meet, that was in investment management. I did KPMG Deal Advisory, and in the summer, I did CNA Hardy. That was a finance summer internship in an insurance firm. And then I did the BCG consult program with Rare Recruitment. I applied to those quite late. I think I remember maybe from December I was making those applications, but everything I had done in the summer was redundant because my applications went up to standard. So I would urge you, if you want to look at what a good application looks like, I'm not just trying to plug my own resources, or head over to the resource bank. There is a discount code for subscribers, which is subscriber 10. But yeah, Also, so the year before that as well, I took a gap year and I interned for 8 months in an insurance firm. I was a research and product development intern. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I had a relatively good CV at the end of my first year, despite, you know, not getting the places that I wanted. I had to make up for that, and I was putting out applications at a crazy rate, and I managed to get some good experience, and I had good experience from my gap year as well. So going into second year now, in the summer of 2018, I had a decent CV. I had a decent CV in the aspect that I was able to get some spring weeks, and I've had prior internship, and I had long-term internships as well. I had a decent CV, but it wasn't very investment banking orientated at all. A lot of the time in interviews I would get questions like, how do you know you want to do investment banking? You've got so much other stuff on here. But at the end of the day, I thought, okay, I have a decent CV, so how many places am I going to apply to? Because of what happened in my first year, I think maybe I applied to a lot of firms, but I applied to 10 investment banks. CV strength is so important because it should guide how many applications you make, as well as where you are applying, because you can have a fantastic CV, but if you're applying to a division like IBD, so the investment banking division, M&A, then you're going to want to make a lot more applications than if you have a good CV and you're applying to compliance. So because of my spring weeks, I had already had an offer from KPMG Deal Advisory, and I think I was going to be in the M&A team. That was going to be 6 weeks, so I already had that as an offer, so that was great going into my second year with a summer internship offer already. And then my Fidelity spring week, I also kind of converted that, if you want to call it a conversion, but I basically got to apply early, and I got the ball rolling with that in June. As I was going through the process, I realized I didn't want to do asset management. Every time I say this, people are like, what's wrong with asset management? What's wrong with asset management? But basically, during spring, I had deal advisory and I had asset management. Deal advisory is dealing with deals, transactions, companies. Asset management, you're dealing with more market. You're doing a lot of macroeconomics, and I hated macroeconomics. Kind of dealing with the same companies at the end of the day, but just in very different forms. So I knew I didn't want to do anything that was going to remind me of macroeconomics or anything to do with markets and oil prices. It's just not my interest. I knew I wanted to do deals, so I kind of left my Fidelity application. I wasn't really bothered about it. I didn't really count it as an application because I knew if I got it, I wouldn't do it. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, Deutsche Bank, Barclays, Lazard Boutique Bank, PWP Boutique Bank, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America. You know, it was a good number of firms, but also I applied to 3 main divisions. And I think this was one of the most important strategies that I had to ensure that I got an offer, which was applying to a breadth of divisions. For you, your diversification strategy to ensure you get an internship offer is maybe applying to 20 places. Like, so people have done that, people done 40. But for me, I wanted to be at one of the big names, and to make sure that I was there, I spreaded myself across 3 different divisions: front office, middle office, and back office. I knew I wanted to do credit risk. I went to a Bright networking event, and I met this lady from JP Morgan. She was currently working in credit risk, and I asked her about it, and she had just come from Goldman Sachs, and she let me know that, okay, there are 2 places who do front office credit risk, and that is Goldman and JP. Everyone else is kind of like more back office, middle office, approval function type. So I knew, okay, I want to apply to credit risk. This is something that I'm interested in. There are only 2 places that do it, but I can't make 2 internship applications. So what I looked at is what is the most aligned to credit risk. Deals and transaction-based stuff. Investment banking division was going to be the closest thing to it, the most aligned to it. So I was like, okay, I'm also going to apply for investment banking. I never really wanted to do investment banking. The lifestyle just isn't for me. I ended up, living the lifestyle anyways during the summer, but we won't get into that. But I could do it for 10 weeks if it meant that I could apply to credit risk again for a graduate role. So I decided to do that. And then my last offer, my last choice of division was finance. I had met someone as well who'd moved from finance into credit risk. So I was like, okay, sounds good, I'll do that. I also applied to equity research at Morgan Stanley because I wasn't really interested in their investment banking division. I think someone had been there the last year and maybe had said something that put me off. I don't really remember, but I was like, I'm just going to do a wild card. I had my main 3. So I had 2 places that I applied for credit risk: Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. most other places I applied for investment banking / corporate banking, they're not entirely the same, but they are quite similar, but except for corporate banking has more of an emphasis on relationship management. Goldman Sachs I applied for investment banking. I think Bank of America applied for investment banking. PwC and Lazard, those are advisory firms, so I was applying for investment banking. I think Citi as well, and then I did corporate banking, I think, at Deutsche Bank and Barclays, and then 3 was finance. That was BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, and JP Morgan. So if you think about it, the division adds up to be more than 10 places, because you could apply to multiple places at Goldman Sachs and you could apply to multiple places at JP Morgan. At least when I did it, that's how it was. So maybe I had like 15 applications altogether. The next thing I did was, and I'm so happy that someone commented on one of my previous videos and mentioned this, and I was like, yes, I really need to speak about this. It's basically this application strategy. Basically, the strategy is you split your applications or the firms that you want to apply to into first priority, second priority, third priority. Like, put them into bands, first, second, and third. And the first one is the ones you really want, like the places you really want to get into, your desired firm. So for me, that would be credit risk. The middle ones are the places you don't mind getting into, you know, it would be great to get into there. So for me, that was IBD. And then you have more of your low-ish ones that kind of like your backup ones. Once you've established that, you apply to your middle priority firms first. And the reason why you do that is because, you know, they're still fantastic places. You will still love and, you know, be grateful if you got accepted. So you want to apply for them early, as you should for most of your applications or all of your applications. You want to apply for it early, but because it's not your number one priority, you can still kind of practice with those, and then you can get better for your high priority ones. I hope I'm explaining this well, but you kind of use your middle ones as a practice, but not practice like, oh, you just mess around with it. You obviously go you know, you put your all into it, but it allows you to build confidence for your high priority ones. Obviously, if you have already applied to spring in your first year and you've kind of gotten a gist of how things work, that could already be your practice, but you might need a bit of a warm-up. So that strategy will still apply. I know for me, it still worked. My application with JP Morgan is a really good example, because I applied to finance first and I got the video interview first. So I completed that, and that kind of gave me more confidence to do the credit risk one. And at that time, they actually ended up being the same video interview. So it was really great to have done it first. Obviously, I did great in my finance one anyways, because I got through to the assessment center. But it was still good to have that practice and confidence. For the credit risk one, I was a bit more relaxed, and you know, I was able to perform again. But again, I still put my all into the middle ones. You don't just do them anyhow, but you sort of get more prepared for the ones that you really want. And then even when we got to the assessment center, it was the same thing. I had finished my finance one, I had got the offer, and then I was able to do my credit risk one, and it gave me a lot of confidence. And if you guys don't already know as well, I got my finance offer before, but I had to forfeit my finance offer to complete the credit risk assessment center. So you're kind of not allowed, I don't know if it's the same now, but you're not allowed to have an offer and be going for an assessment center for another place. So I basically, for me, it was a really big decision, because in my spring week, like I said, I didn't get any offers from investment banks. I didn't even get a phone call interview from JP Morgan. So having made it to the offer level for finance, which is a really good division, it linked up with credit risk. So if I did want to do credit risk for grad, I could do that. I was at JP Morgan. I've always wanted to be there. It was kind of like, do I forsake this offer for a really good division, really good place for, you know, credit risk, which I have no guarantee that I'm going to do well in. I don't really know too much about it. You know, it's a lot more competitive. It was a big decision for me. I made the decision. That was crazy times. But I built up the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to go for credit risk and forfeit my finance offer, because of the confidence that I had that actually, you know what, I did well in that interview. They liked me. They gave me the offer. So hopefully I can repeat that again for credit risk. And I did. So that's just an example. I think that's a really good example of how that works. So the key takeaways from this video is, if you guys want to take anything away, is to, number one, use the strength of your CV and the competitiveness of your division to figure out how many applications you should make. I am going to be starting a CV review service, so follow me on Instagram to know when that comes out. The second thing is to diversify. If you really want to ensure that you get an offer, even if things don't go the way you plan, you can diversify across firm type, or you can diversify across division. And the third thing is to apply to the middle first. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!